Hey, how you doing? This is Adam Post, publisher of more than 1,000 comic books and marketing expert covering Disney. Woke Disney PANICS puts men back in superhero movies. Let's get into the story. Before we do, please be sure you are subscribed to the channel. Click the bell for notifications. Give me a thumbs up. I really appreciate you guys. Coming from thatparkplace.com, Disney executive says moviegoers that criticize the company's agenda want movies that, quote, conform to regressive gender stereotypes. And from Cosmic Book News, Disney executive blames fans, refuses to take blame for Star Wars, the Marvel's failures. Bob Iger is apparently trying to fix things, which this executive is apparently bitter about. And from the Puck.News, Bob Iger has a brand problem, but does it matter? From the HollywoodReporter.com, how Marvel is quietly retooling amid superhero fatigue. Why is Marvel retooling? Because their films have been bombing, because they're trying to push, instead of what they call regressive stereotypes, they're trying to push progressive stereotypes into superhero movies. I mean, of course, they're doing it in all their movies, but no, there are people that are not interested in their new idea of what a woman should be or what a man should be. They just want to enjoy a movie. This is from Collider. Madam Web's box office disaster has derailed Sony's future film plans. And from MovieWeb, The Marvels is the most predictable disaster in movie history. And from Fandom Pulse, after Madam Web's box office bomb, Silk, Spider Society fires every writer and shifts focus to a male audience. This is another Spider-Man universe series that was being developed at Amazon, and once they saw how badly Madam Web did, they said, oh, okay, maybe we can't just try to reinvent the whole superhero genre, because people are refusing to watch things like that. They're just not interested in it. Coming from thatparkplace.com, Disney executive says moviegoers that criticize the company's agenda want movies that conform to aggressive gender stereotypes. So just normal movies. An anonymous executive from the Walt Disney Company decided to blame moviegoers for the company's films bombing at the box office. Puck writer Matt Belloni wrote an article last Thursday documenting how the Walt Disney Company's favorability has declined among Americans in a poll conducted by Quorum. The poll found that Disney had the highest unfavorability rating among other blue-chip companies. It clocked in with a 21% unfavorable score. Comparatively, Sony had the lowest with just a 5% unfavorable score. If you think about Disney, you understand the controversy, what they're doing, changing classic characters and things like that. And then you think about Sony, it's like, well, all right, Sony just makes a terrible movie. Nobody wants to see it. Fine, they won't see it. If they put out a Spider-Man movie and people are excited about it, then they do go see it. But people don't have these kinds of strong feelings against Sony because Sony isn't trying to use the intellectual properties they control to push a political agenda. The poll also found that respondents are divided by political party. It found that, quote, fully 30% of Republicans and 26% of independents have an unfavorable opinion of the company, compared to only 8% of Democrats. So they're supporting Democrat progressive agendas as part of their content, and then they're wondering, like, well, why don't people want to see these movies? Even the Democrats aren't seeing these movies. In response to this article, an anonymous Disney executive informed Matt Belloni that the fans are to blame for Disney's films bombing. The executive informed Belloni, quote, everyone says it's the movie, stupid, which is an easy thing for people to say. More appealing movies are a great way to jump to political issues. But more and more our audience, or the segment of the audience that has been politicized, equate the perceived messaging in a film as a quality issue. The executive continued, well, they won't say they find female empowerment distasteful in the Marvels or Star Wars, the latest trilogy starring Daisy Ridley. But they will say they don't like those movies because they are bad. The progressives have a very strange view of what female empowerment is. A very good example is just look at the success of Wonder Woman 1. That worked. Do what works. It goes for every business, every creative endeavor. If you're trying to make a success of something, you need to see what works and make sure that what you're doing fits in with why something worked. In business, creatively, we sit around and we look at things that are successful and we say, gee, I wonder why that was successful. And we really think about it. We don't go inside and examine our own personal political politics and decide, you know what? I want to push my messaging and my ideas on life in my work, whether I'd be making a consumer product like beer or making an entertainment product like a comic book or a movie or a television show, we don't look and say, you know what, I need to push my political agenda and people need to accept my political agenda and it needs to also be financially successful. That has never worked. Like never in the history of time has that ever worked. And yet these creative executives at Disney think that it should work just because they control a brand and they can abuse the power of that brand and the relationship that that brand has with consumers. It's really incredible that they are so deluded to think just because they own a Marvel brand or just because they own a major consumer brand that they can force their politics into that brand and consumers will still accept it, as if consumers only exist to be programmed for political purposes. Consumers buy things where they see value in the product or service and value that exceeds the cash that it costs to buy the product or service. It's really simple, but they refuse to accept the simplicity because they're obsessed with pushing an agenda. The executive concluded, quote, "So make better movies becomes code for make movies that conform to regressive gender stereotypes or put men front and center in the narrative," which is what you're seeing now and what Bob Iger's pivot is about right now. So Bob Iger is making that pivot because he understands if you're going to make movies for boys that are superhero movies, you need to put men in those movies. It's that simple. It's not complicated. If you want to make movies for girls, put women in your princess movies. It's that simple. Also, make sure they are not men who identify as women in dresses. That won't appeal to little girls. It just won't. It doesn't matter what your politics are. This is very difficult for these executives to accept, and that's why they should really all just be fired. They don't even understand the absolute basics of delivering something to a customer that a customer actually wants. It can't be something you want them to want. It has to be something that they actually want. The Hollywood Reporter put out an extensive article today talking about how Marvel is retooling, they say not rebooting, but retooling their superheroes for the Marvel Universe. From the Hollywood Reporter, how Marvel is quietly retooling amid superhero fatigue. The studio's golden box office aura has been dented, but chief architect Kevin Feige isn't scrapping his years-long cinematic universe plan, just refining it. Quote, "They're not going to give up," says an insider. Well, of course they're not going to give up on the Marvel brand, but they need to get back to what people actually want to see, not what they want to program them with. Just over a year ago, Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania was set to take Marvel Studios to the next level. A new villain was going to be introduced, setting the stage for several years' worth of storytelling. And the movie itself was a giant sizing of a franchise that was previously modest in scope. Instead, the Peyton Reed-directed movie heralded a year's worth of missteps, box office blunders, and PR nightmares. It was all uncharted territory for Marvel, which had steadily been generating box office gold for 15 years. But the Disney division is in the midst of a pretty darn good February, all things considered, despite the general gloom that surrounds the superhero genre as of late. The Super Bowl trailer for Deadpool and Wolverine became the most watched trailer of all time, with 365 million views in 24 hours. Yes, Disney's math includes the 123 million people who tuned in for the game, which included just 30 seconds of the trailer. But Super Bowl fudging or not, the clip's reach was an encouraging number for a studio whose last movie, The Marvels, became the lowest grossing in the MCU's 33-film run, hitting just $206 million globally. Next came the Valentine's Day unveiling of the cast of Fantastic Four. The Fantastic Four are a cornerstone of the Marvel mythos, with writer Stan Lee and artist Jack Kirby introducing the team in the 1961's Fantastic Four #1, the comic book that would initiate the Marvel Universe, so the symbolic launch of the new team carries a lot of weight for the film division. This is the third incarnation of Fantastic Four. A day later, Marvel launched the trailer for X-Men '97, a revival of the 1990s cartoon that debuts in March. The trailer set an internal Disney record as the biggest launch for an animated series on Disney+, ahead of other Marvel shows such as What If and any animated Star Wars series. These public-facing moves come as studio boss Kevin Feige recalibrates the creative direction behind the scenes. Early in February, the company completed reshoots for Angela Darkhold Diaries, the WandaVision spin-off starring Kathryn Hahn that is expected to hit Disney Plus this fall. The company usually budgets 5 days of reshoots into the schedule, but the studio completed the work in just one, fueling a sunny outlook around the show internally according to sources associated with the series. The studio also quietly hired Eric Pearson to polish the script for Fantastic Four, which will shoot this summer in London. Pearson is a company stalwart who worked on Thor Ragnarok and Black Widow and has a reputation for taking projects over the finish line. The stakes for that movie are high as the studio is searching for characters and actors who can carry its universe forward after the exits of Robert Downey Jr. and Chris Evans. Marvel has also hired Joanna Callow, the showrunner of acclaimed FX series The Bear, to work on the script for Thunderbolts. The film will begin shooting in March in Atlanta. Her hiring adds a flair of prestige to the project, and according to a source who has read previous drafts of the script, centers on villains and anti-heroes going on a mission that was supposed to end with their deaths. Marvel is also cleaning up the mess left in the wake of Jonathan Majors, the once rising actor cast to play the linchpin villain role in the next Avengers movies, but who in December was found guilty of reckless assault in the third degree and harassment in a Manhattan court after a domestic incident with his ex-partner, a movement coach he met while working on Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania. Marvel dropped Majors hours after the conviction and is rewriting those movies, which will now either minimize the character or excise him completely. The first of the new Avengers movies, due out in 2026, was initially titled Avengers: The Kang Dynasty, but will be getting a new title to remove the character's name, though sources say that even before Majors' conviction, the studio was making moves to minimize the character after Quantumania underperformed, grossing $476 million. On the TV side, Marvel has been reorganizing its operations to allow for greater control from showrunners, a move made after the critical failure of the expensive Samuel L. Jackson spy series Secret Invasion, which sidelined executive producer Kyle Bradstreet after a year, with various creative factions vying for influence in his wake. The show had about 2.5 billion minutes of viewing over its 6-week run per Nielsen, but that was in the bottom third of Marvel's live-action Disney Plus offerings so far. Quote, "The focus is internal this year," says one insider of all the tinkering going on behind the scenes. Executives are not calling it a reboot, not even a soft one, but more of a creative retooling. It's no secret that since the 2019 Avengers Endgame, the company was asked to scale up in an unprecedented way to feed its fledgling streaming service, Disney Plus, then a top priority for Disney, which was in the thick of the streaming wars. First under the direction of Disney CEO Bob Iger, and later his short-lived successor Bob Chapek, Marvel expanded into TV series and animation, with the goal of the MCU becoming a place with a seemingly endless procession of year-round releases. It was an ask that provided too unwieldy to sustain. Quote, "Some of our studios lost a little focus, so the first step we've taken is that we've reduced volume," Iger said on February 7th in an earnings call. "We've reduced output, particularly at Marvel, in order to ensure the films you're making can be even better." As the Hollywood strikes ended in November, the studio delayed Captain America: New World Order 7 months to February 14th, 2025, to give it time to undergo reshoots. Iger touted Captain America 4, starring Anthony Mackie, as among the 2025 Disney releases he was most excited for during the earnings call. He did not mention Blade, leading to speculation it will be moved from its November 2025 date. It's unlikely Marvel will release 4 films that year given Iger's mandate to slim down. The dual writers and actors strikes, while costly to Hollywood, ironically gave Marvel breathing space. It was able to reschedule its movies so that only Deadpool and Wolverine will be launched in 2024. And only 2 series, Echo and Agatha, are bowing on Disney Plus this year. Other movies remain in the script stage, while TV shows such as Ironheart have filmed but have no release date in sight. It is all designed to give creatives some breathing room and give audiences the chance to miss the MCU just a little bit. Quote, "They're not going to give up," says a source who has worked with Marvel over the past year. "They want to make something great." Marvel looks like it will never regain the momentum it had in the past, where they really understood what they were making and who they were making it for. Let me know what you think of all this in the comments below. Always love to see your ideas. Please be sure you are subscribed to the channel. Click the bell for notifications. Give me a thumbs up, and I'll see you again soon with another video. And if I don't see you, I will miss you.